We'll see if it's going to work. All right. Are we live? I think we're live. We are here.
Can you see us over there?
We are back for Sew
Okay.
Together Tuesday. I'm Teresa Coates. I'm the National Educator for Shannon Fabrics. Sorry we are a little late this morning. We were going just fine, and then all of a sudden, about 5 minutes ago, the technology that we use to do the streaming decided to go belly up, and we had to revamp. So we are here on Facebook only this week. We will upload it to YouTube later.
Jackie's here. She says, "Gotcha now." Hi, everybody.
Right. And we'll be doing it a little bit different. So we're kind of going back to what we did like a year ago, Hog. Like this is like
Right.
no banners, no nothing. It's old school this week. But we are here at In Stitches in Dixon, California. We are back on the road. I'm super excited to be here. And again, I'm Teresa Coates. It's Sew Together Tuesday. We're back. So I want to do a couple of things, talk about a couple of things before we get started with our project today, which we are making a Christmas tree skirt because it's getting to be that season. Thanksgiving is coming, which means you need to make your tree skirt because then after that you have to start decorating your tree if you celebrate. So it should be pretty fun. First of all, if you are watching, please share it with your friends, your sewing group, all that good stuff. At the end, we will choose a winner from those of you who have shared it. So thank you. We will pick a winner. You will get a Cuddle quilt kit that we will send to you in the mail, and as our thank you for that one. And then I also wanted to remind you about, oh, we can't put up the list. Oh, I just realized that, the things that we have. Anyway, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Making the World a Softer Place. Ta-da! So this is, we have an organization, Shannon Fabrics has an organization called Making the World a Softer Place that is a nonprofit that every holiday season works toward helping those families who are dealing with food scarcity. So they need a meal for the holidays, can't really afford it. We're here to help. So every year we give away a lot of meals, and we need your help to be able to do that. So for $40, a $40 donation, you give away one of these bags plus a gift card that will buy protein for the family. So we encourage all of you to help us help others, and you can do that through makingtheworldasofterplace.org. All right, so make sure that you go there, donate. We have a long list to show you of all the people we are so grateful for giving the last week, and then StreamYard. We are still very grateful to you all for helping. So thank you very much for that. Okay, sharing, and then I guess that we're here. Okay.
Yeah.
I try to like go through this list every time in my head, and then like
I mean,
all of a sudden I'm here, and I'm like, wait.
We got thrown off our game a little bit
We
this morning.
really did. Like
you're doing great.
3 minutes before. All right, where'd Colleen go? Colleen, come on up here. Okay, so Colleen will be here in a second. We are in Stitches in Dixon, California. So we are about an hour west of Sacramento. Is that right?
East.
30 minutes. Oh, 30 minutes.
Sorry.
We are right outside. It just depends on how fast you drive, Colleen says. So you could be here in a half an hour or an hour. You know, it depends. So this is Colleen. She is the owner of In Stitches, correct? A little bit of the owner.
Oh, officially not taking credit.
She makes the rules here from what I can tell, which is great. So how long have you been in business here?
Well, glad you asked.
Yeah.
So it's we've been down here a little over 3 years now, right?
Okay.
Isn't that about right? But we expanded into the fabric about a year and a half ago.
Oh, okay. So
And
you
then
started as a
Julian
machine shop.
Yeah, so Julian was in Vacaville. He's been in for 27 years, I think it is now. And he was down in Vacaville.
Mm-hmm.
And then he subleased to a quilt shop that was beloved down in Vacaville called Quilted Heart.
Uh-huh.
She retired. Well, first we split and added, oh, that's nice. First, we added this second location for classroom and long arming because we ran out of space. So we were down here on this half for a while, and then she retired, so we expanded over to the fabric about a year and a half ago.
Got it.
That's a long answer to a really short question.
That's okay. So
That's
you
right.
started as machine, and now you sell fabric too, and you do long arming, correct?
Yes, we do
Yeah.
long arming.
I saw that you
We
have
rent
3
out
long
long
arms
arms.
in the front and
We
one
do.
back here. Right?
Yes.
There's a lot of long arms.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
They can come and rent machines.
Very cool.
We do a lot of classes and lessons on them. So yeah, we like the long arms, but we like classes. So we started with machine embroidery, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah, it's true. And we kind of expanded a lot into apparel because it's growing now. We
Uh-huh.
love it.
Yep.
And we got Maryland, so that's good.
That's great.
And then, because it was better than me. And now we're in the quilting, which was actually my first
Right.
love until I got to embroidery machines.
Very
Right.
cool. And how
That's
long
it.
have you been carrying the Cuddle fabrics?
Since day one.
See? She's a good place.
We love it. We do, and especially on the quilts, right?
Yes, exactly. And that's what I was going to say is like for shops that do a lot of long arming, they often carry Cuddle. That's how they start, is by putting it on the back, and then you realize all the other things that it's really great for.
It's true.
Yeah.
Every time Shannon, resends one of her picks, we're all proud of it.
Yeah.
We put everything up for long arm and Cuddle.
It's really lovely. So thanks for having us. I really appreciate
thanks for
it.
coming up. We're glad you're here.
Thanks. Okay, so let's get started on our tree skirt.
Yeah, I get to go now.
Yeah, you get to go. Yeah, take off. Go do some other things. Okay. She sort of skewed off to the side.
I did. I did.
So today we're going to make the tree skirt. Like I said, it's really interesting for us to go to all of these different shops because different shops deal with things differently. And like we were talking about, she does a lot of the long arming here, and a lot of long arming shops sell a lot of the Cuddle 390, which if you have not worked with it before, it's the 90 wide, and I know that they have some here, as well as the other Cuddles. You can always piece them to do a larger quilt if you needed to, but the Cuddle 390 is very nice. Okay, so the fabrics that we're working with today, we're working with both Luxe Cuddle and a Cuddle print today. So we're going to talk about both of those different fabrics, how we cut them, how we sew them, and all sorts of good stuff. So let me show you really quickly the what it looks like when it's finished, and then we'll put this aside. Okay, but basically what we're making is this, is it a hexagon? Is that how many sides it has?
Yeah.
The six-sided?
Six-sided, yep, hexy.
Okay. It's hard for me
to
remember.
Big hexy.
Okay, so it's a great big hexy, exactly. So that's what we're going to work with today. You can be a little bit lazy and just wrap some Cuddle around the bottom of your tree. Looks beautiful. But this is a super nice way of doing it that will actually give it a little bit of shape. And I like it that you can, what it does is it actually lets you play with the texture. So we're going to move this direction, and you can see how we got the Cuddle to all lay out the same way. So if we cut this in a circle, our texture would be, the nap would be going in one way on one side and the other way on the other side. This one, we got all the texture to work. So it goes,
so what's
which
this
is
fabric?
Let's
talk about that.
This is Luxe Cuddle
today.
We don't. This is Luxe Cuddle Ridge. I think in navy, but it's Luxe Cuddle Ridge. It's one of my favorites because it has this like base of the dark blue that you can see down there. That's so pretty. It's like the frosted, but it has a different look to it. And this one is our digital Cuddle Snowfall, and this is the navy version. We're going to be working with the red today. So this is a great pattern that you could do. You could do both sides with Luxe Cuddle. You could do both sides with print, but we really like combining the print with the Cuddle, with the Luxe Cuddle. So that's how this is going to turn out. So
since we don't have an ingredients list, can we kind of go through
the things we're going to need?
Some general sort of things.
Yeah. Kimberly, would you grab me a pattern really quick? She was so on it. I saw she was walking toward it even as I was saying it. She knew what I needed. Thank you. There we go. All right. So there we go. So the pattern, you can get the pattern on our website, and it's a brand new pattern that we came out like a month ago or something. It's super cute, and I can't even remember where we got the idea exactly, but I like the way it's put together. It might just have been Rose. But today we're doing it with 1 3/4 yards of Luxe Cuddle Marble and 1 3/4 yards of the DC Digital Cuddle Snowfall. So that's what you need, is 2 different fabrics, 1 3/4 yards of each. Okay, these are the 2 that we're doing. You also need 2 yards of decorative ribbon, which we got here. Okay, you'll need a 90/14 stretch needle, polyester thread, a felt marker, of course your rotary cutter, and the little craft knife, flower head pins, fabric clips if you've got them, and a point turner, and of course your walking foot, because we're working with Cuddle fabric, so we want to use our walking foot for sure. Okay, I think that was all the ingredients. Yes. It's been such a long time that we've been without the banners and stuff that I realize I'm kind of reliant on them.
We have a whole other team that is unfortunately not able to help.
Like, what are we doing right now? Just hanging out, watching the live. It's great. All right. So don't forget, you can download the pattern.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, thanks. And InStitches has the kit available. So InStitches450.com, 450.com is where you can go. And if you go to that website, you'll be able to find the tree skirt kit. And she has a whole bunch. I think she had like 6 different variations that she put together. So these are just 2 of them that you could do, but you could do lots of different ones. But you can go there. So InStitches450.com. And I think the kits were like $49.99, I think is what she told me. So there you go.
You got a thumbs up in the back.
Okay, good. All right, so you can you can buy your kit there and you can make one too. All right, so the way that this works is you're going to take your yardage and you're going to cut it into 18-inch strips first. So I did that at home because trying to cut all of that yardage on my little table is hard. So what I did is I cut the 18-inch strips. And I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So when I did this, first thing I want to do is figure out which way my nap goes. So this is my top. Okay. So I'm going to fold this in half. And I did cut these, folded it in half with the digital Cuddle. So you can absolutely do that. With the Luxe Cuddle, I cut it single layer, and I'll show you that in a second. But with this one, I did cut it 2 layers at a time with an 18-inch strip. Okay. So normally you would have cut this and then you wouldn't have moved it. It would just be sitting here just like this, all where it's supposed to be. Okay. So now I get my pen and my measuring tape, and I'm going to check the pattern just to make sure that I do this right. So it tells you in here, so if you don't mind showing, so this is how we're going to cut the strips, and then we're going to cut it into 24-inch sections. Okay, so I have this, you can get two sections out of each. So 24 inches wide is what we want, and then we're going to cut them into 2. So this is what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark my 24 and then mark my 3.5 inch up here. Okay, so let me show you. So because we're dealing with these kind of like pie shapes, they have to be the right size and they have to be the right angle.
Got it.
So this is 24 inches down here at the bottom, which is convenient because that's what my ruler is measured at. So I'm marking my, and I should have been careful and marked it where it wasn't going to show. Dang it. Okay, so this is my 12-inch is what I did.
So what do you mean by that?
So I marked it up here on this side of my ruler, and I should have marked it down here because it's white right there.
Right.
So I bet that's going to show a little gray spot on the other side.
Got it. You would either normally want to mark it up at the edge, or if you can see that digital Cuddle print through, maybe you could kind of hide that tick.
You could just, if you were using like a little ballpoint pen or like the friction pens. The friction pens are really good for that. The felt tip friction pens, not the ballpoint friction pens. So there's 2 different kinds, and the felt tip friction pens are really good for this sort of thing because they're light. There's a yellow one that you could use on this that would never show. Okay, so I probably just gave myself a little gray dot.
Pro tip.
Not the yeah, don't do that. Not the worst thing ever. Like nobody's really going to be able to tell.
Oopsie.
But what I want to do is mark my center up here. So that's what I was marking the 12. So I've got 24 down here, and I got my half line up here. Does that make sense? Okay. So this was my 12 inches between here. 12 inches here, 12 inches.
Okay.
Okay. So then I need a 3.5 inch up here. So it's 1 3/4. So what I did is I lay it on here so that this little tick mark goes at 1 3/4.
Okay.
And then I mark it here, and then I mark it at 3.5. Okay.
Got it.
So these are my markings that I can then measure it with.
Jackie says, cover the gray dot with a present.
There you go.
Check.
You're right. Nobody will ever see it. It's going to be covered.
Fine.
Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw the line here. And I like to draw my lines before I cut them just because the rulers often like to wiggle a little bit on me. And so if it wiggles, I'm not going to be cutting the wrong line. So I'm going to draw the line and then I'm going to cut it. All right. So I'm going to give myself some little wedges. Now you will actually have some other little wedges that you can do some other fun things with. If you were using something that were super non-directional, like the shearling that we did, I'm trying to think of something. Oh, the seal is pretty straight up, so it's not really, there's not a nap that like flows from one way or the other. You could flip this, because now I have a piece here that will fit in here.
Oh, got it.
So I could recut this to be that third. But otherwise, I've got scraps. Make yourself a stocking or something, okay?
Got it.
Something else. We all want more scraps, right? I mean, I guess that's true because I already asked for my scrap bag, so. All right.
Matching scrunchies?
Totally, you can make matching scrunchies. You could do that hair wrap that I made the other day. Okay. So we're going to cut these 2 at a time for the digital cuddle. All right. So 2 at a time for that one. We're going to put these aside. I've got my third one here. We're going to sew those guys together. And then we're going to do one. So we're going to do the same thing with both pieces. You need 6 pieces of this, 6 pie wedges to make it. All right. So on this one, I've already marked it out. This is my Luxe Cuddle version. All right. So I did the same thing. And I made, and that one I actually just made like the lines. You can see the black lines on here. I did all the lines and then I cut things out. So this is with the Luxe Cuddle with the marble, right? Okay. So this one I'm going to cut with this guy, which is one of my favorite tools. It's the Olfa SAC-1 blade. And instead of using the rotary cutter, which is going to leave a super big mess, we're going to use this guy, and this will leave much less mess, okay? So I'm going to click this out. I'm going to start up here, and I'm going to hold it down and just drag this. Yeah, there we go. Make sure my blade is sharp, which it is. And the key is really just holding the fabric in place as you go. So then as I cut it, most of that nap's just going to stay right on there. Okay, and that to me is kind of a game changer in just working with Cuddle. Love the Luxe Cuddle overall. It's just so nice. Okay, cut this whole thing out. And you'll do this on each of them. So that was the thing that I was like, I should probably cut some of these out before I get there. So I did. So the other 5 are actually cut out. And these you need to cut one at a time. The reason I like to do that is this one actually is, it needs to be this, all the pieces need to be the same size. So if you were to cut this as 2 layers of Luxe Cuddle and just deal with it and vacuum it up, you'd end up with 2 pieces that are slightly off because the cuddle will slide on itself. So for accuracy, you should cut it 1 layer at a time too. Okay, twist this. Do 1 more side. Okay. How are people doing out there?
Oh, I think we're doing great. There was a question earlier, actually. It was sort of a general sewing with Cuddle question. What happens if you don't have a walking foot right now?
If you don't have a walking foot right now, go order one. But you can absolutely sew with it. It just is a little bit, sometimes a lot harder depending on the machine. So the way that the walking foot works is it drags it through from both the top and the bottom, and we'll get it to feed through much nicer. If you don't have a walking foot, being able to kind of hold them and bring them through together is much better. Did I see a question here?
Yes. Would like a box cutter work for that if you don't have?
Yeah, she was asking if a box cutter would work, and that's actually how I found this tool. Was that I was using a box cutter from the warehouse, and because I've done a lot of work with faux fur before, and I thought, I wonder if you could cut Luxe Cuddle like you cut faux fur. So I tried it with a box cutter, and it totally worked. The thing that I found is that I think I was at like Quilt Market or something, and Olfa was like, hey, we have a tool kind of like that. Do you want to try it? I said, sure. The thing that I realized is that point, I put the tool away. So I'm going to show you. So this little point, the part that it goes out here, more like an X-Acto knife. I always say it's kind of like an X-Acto knife and a box cutter had a baby, and this is what they came up with. And that sharp point actually lets you have more flat on the cutting. So when I'm doing it, if I can drag it along here, I actually have more of the blade touches down. So you can imagine if this was a blunter end here, you wouldn't have as much touching, and it doesn't cut as well. So this one cuts better. A box cutter will totally work. This cuts better, okay? And we've talked about it before, but this sharp point, there's another kind of Olfa tool that is just like this, but has more of a box cutter end. So it's a, would you call that a blunter?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, maybe,
a blunter angle.
Maybe more. Yeah, maybe more of a blunt end. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And they have one like that, and it doesn't cut as well. And I found that at a workshop that we had, and somebody had brought in that tool, and I was like, oh, I haven't seen that. So it does work very similar. So that tool is fabulous. I really do love it. And it's Olfa. So you know that they're good tools. I have had very good luck with that. All right. That was great. That's hardly any So now I have all of my pieces. We're going to sew.
All the folks here at In Stitches appreciate you not making a mess.
It's just a little bit of a mess. Okay. Not as much as if I were cutting it with a rotary cutter, let me tell you. All right. So now what we're going to do is we're going to sew these together. So I've got 2 of them sewed together. I'm going to sew the other one on here. So you can see they start coming together. When you put them, you will have cut them so that they're all, the nap is going in the same direction. We're going to fold this over and we're going to pin it. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing that I always do. I'm going to make sure that this end matches, and I'm going to pin it here. I'm going to come up here and make sure this end matches. Pin it here, and then start dividing it up. Okay. Then we're going to do our little double pinning thing, where I'm going to pin parallel to the raw edge. It holds the fabric down better. And then I'm going to do a second row of pins just outside of that. And as you can see, this wants to kind of come over here. Okay, so it's not quite even. I'm just going to pull that back, make it be where I want it to be, and pin it in position. So a lot of times I'll get people telling me, well, it just keeps moving. I'm like, you really do have to make it stay where you want it to. All right, so you ready to come around?
Let's do it.
We'll do some sewing.
I'm going to do a quick, slow pan on our studio audience. Hi, everybody.
Say hi. There we are.
There we go.
All right. So I've got my Baby Lock Crescendo, and we are on a straight stitch. I changed my needle this morning, so we're on a fresh needle, which is great. So don't forget to change your needle regularly. A lot of times we want to sew with them for as long as possible, and it's not the wisest. All right. So we're going to just do a straight stitch. I've got my Metler thread, and I'm going to do about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And I'm just going to sew right along here. Okay. And if I kind of keep a hand back here and I keep a hand up front, I can get this to guide nice and straight and through. So if you do not have a walking foot, we had that question, this is where that other hand really comes in, and you need to kind of guide it through and then lighten up your presser foot pressure, and then buy yourself a walking foot. It will make a big difference.
Add it to your Christmas wish list.
That's right. The other thing is that when this cut here is kind of on the bias of the fabric, it's not exactly a 45-degree angle, but it's definitely, it's stretchier. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
So this is the stretchy way of the fabric, and this is the bias. You can see it stretches a lot more. So as I'm sewing, I'm trying to be very careful not to let it stretch and to kind of feed it through. That's more what this hand is doing, is kind of just edging it up to the foot to let it feed through without stretching it at all. So sometimes I'll kind of give this side a little bit of a tug to keep it in there. Okay. There. Do a little back stitch. There we go. All right. So now, take the rest of my pins out. Oh, those are beautiful stitches. Okay, this is how you want your stitches to look. Okay, that length right there is great. So a lot of times people want to get too small with it. This is lovely that you can see all of those stitches. That's what we want.
So that's what it looks like when this machine is set at a 3-stitch length.
Yes.
So, however, when you set it to a certain setting on the machine, it doesn't always, because of the Cuddle is coming through at a different rate, it doesn't always sew like you might expect it to at that rate, right? Right.
So yes, this is the 3 on this fabric pinned the way that I did. Yes, it definitely, we talked about it on the video we did last, I think it was like last December or something. We did one comparing machines, and we've definitely had to up it on like the featherweight. I can't remember how many stitches per inch I was doing, like 6.
It's not so much the number,
like
it's the result you're looking for.
Right, and the Janome, I think it was up to like a 4.5. So yeah, make sure that you're getting stitches that look like this, and don't worry so much about the number. But start at a 3 or 3.5. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside. Oh, actually, nope, I'm going to pin these 2 together. So now we have 2 halves. Okay. So we got one. Look, you can see where I had to take out stitches, because sometimes I do.
Oh, is that what's going on over there?
It's really not little white worms or anything. Like, I was like, what is coming up there? It's little white threads.
Got it.
Because I had to take stitches out. It happens. It really does. I just try to pretend. To everybody. Yeah. I try. And you can see, like, I sewed white thread on all of this, and you can't see the threads because Cuddle. Okay, so I've got my 2 pieces. I'm going to sew these 2 pieces together. The thing is, you want to make sure that you do is you only sew one of these sides together so that we get an open side over there. I would not be surprised if I ever accidentally sewed both sides shut, and then you wouldn't be able to wrap it around your tree. That would be a problem.
Oh,
yeah, you'd have to feed the tree through the hole.
I mean, it is stretchy, right?
Try to get that around your tree. No, that will definitely pop stitches. You try to shove your Christmas tree around it. Okay, try to pin this. So make sure you leave a little. Okay. I'm going to pin this side. We'll do this. And then we'll tackle the other. So because it is a luxe cuddle, it's going to shift on you and it's going to move. So make sure, just like here, try to make sure that the edges are together. Pull it around as I have to. And a bunch of the different cuddles will work differently for this. I really can't wait to see people's variations. We're going to make these this afternoon, and I'm excited about seeing other combos, because I think it has a ton of potential for all sorts of great fabric combos. Okay.
If somebody's asking about possibly taking this a little step further and adding like white trim around the edge or something, would that be sort of like just adding binding?
You could do it like binding. Yeah, absolutely. You could put the 2 sides together and then bind the edges. The other thing you could do that I had talked about with someone, I can't remember who now, but we talked about adding like a ruffle around the edge. And you could do that at this point. After you've got this whole thing, you could put a ruffle around the edge and then sandwich it in. So you could do, yeah, a bunch of different things. I saw a Christmas tree skirt this morning, actually. And they had a big white edging on it. Let me show you. And I was thinking I could do something like that, where it was red here, and then along here it was a white band. And you could totally do that. And you could either piece it as a red and then a white band, or you could put white over the top of it as just like an applique.
Oh, okay, sure, got it.
Yeah, but I was like, oh, you could do that too. Yeah. All the ideas.
I see some folks that just got over to the Facebook stream from YouTube. They were sorry guys, StreamYard went down this morning, so we are only able to broadcast directly to Facebook this morning. We will eventually be able to repost the recorded video up onto YouTube, so it'll be there in the correct slot.
Right.
But this morning we're just rolling with the punches.
Yeah, that's all we can do. Okay, so now I've got
Thanks for finding us.
Thanks. We found our 3-piece of here, so we just did the same thing over here. We got the 6 pieces together here. We've got a 3-piece here. Okay, and then we're going to sew these guys together. How are we doing time-wise? I don't. My sewing machine says it's 1:30. I don't think that's true.
No, and with this interface, I have no idea
how long we've actually been. She's been at this for 3.5 hours.
So, nope. I think we're doing great.
All right, we're a half hour in. We're good. Okay, so make sure I don't, go too far over. All right, so this is the interesting part. So I wanted to show you both different kinds of fabrics because they work differently. So this one, I laid the 2 together, and look how perfectly they match up. Like, they just match. Yeah. So that's the nice thing about the digital Cuddle is it doesn't move around. I don't have to fight it the whole time. It's going to be super easy to keep in place. Okay, I'm going to pin this the same way.
I feel like I'm going to come around again.
Okay, do it. You can watch from the other side. Okay, that'll give me a chance to bend over and pick up my pins here that I threw on the floor. Because that happens.
There was a tragic pin accident.
All right, so I'm going to sew this really quick, and then we'll do it again. Okay, and I don't know if you noticed, but I am back stitching at each one of those because this is going to get some stress because the seams are going to be open. We're not sewing them down very quickly. So one of the things that I learned as I was doing this, or I realized as I was doing this, is as I get to the end, with the digital Cuddle especially, when I get down here, because it is, try to get past that pin, because it's on the bias, and then it starts to get really skinny here. Can you see that part? I don't know if you can tell, but my fabric starts to curve. And so I try to hold it. So this is when that stiletto comes in really handy, is I get to hold these two layers together and hold them out straight. So what I found is at the end, I was often swerving off either this way or this way if I wasn't careful in holding the ends together. Okay. Does that make sense, Hawk?
Oh yeah, it totally made sense, and this is probably the best camera view we could have had of it.
Okay, good.
I don't usually come around from this side very often, so that worked out really well.
Yeah, so that definitely made a difference for me, because what happens is then when you lay it out like this won't lay flat, and it'll start to do like this weird pucker thing and come up. So that's one thing I realized, is I need to get that nice and straight. Okay, so pay attention to how straight you're coming through that end.
And kind of force it.
Yeah. And the stiletto works really well to hold that. If you have something else that you can hold onto the end there and keep it straight, that's good. But that stiletto works amazingly
without
well.
Putting your fingers in harm's way.
Right. Well, the thing is that I found that if I'm trying to hold it with my fingers, I end up kind of pulling it, because I'm trying to like do this, and I end up pulling it, which is exactly the opposite of what I want to do. I'm much less likely to pull it if I'm doing it with the stiletto. The stiletto kind of just keeps things in place and doesn't tug at all. Oops. Let's look at those. Let's see my little marks. Oh, we'll have to see if we can find out if we can find the mark from the other side. I just did.
That sounds like the wrong holiday. That sounds like an Easter egg hunt.
See, yeah, I guess. I also think that's how sewists, how we work. Like if we were going to make this and give this to somebody, the first thing we would tell them. That's where I messed up right there. That little spot. It's really pretty, except for right there.
Yeah.
Right? I know everybody is like, yep, that's what we do. It's what we do.
It's all makers. All makers do that.
I mean, I made that top for my daughter the other day and then told her, but there is one little spot. Sorry. And I don't know why we need to do that, but it's what we do. Try to get over it.
Yeah.
At least I thought about it when I did the top for my daughter the other day, and I thought about it, and I told her there was a mistake, but I didn't show it to her. So when she gets it, she won't be able to find it. So I was able to relieve the pressure myself that I need to tell. There's a mistake.
Nobody cares.
Nobody cares. I know.
Is it soft?
And this will still be soft. For sure. All right. So now we'll take those out. Get my pins put away. All right. So now we've got the same thing, and then I've got the 3 panels of this. Okay. And I thought about this because this is where I like to get picky about certain things. So I'm like somebody who likes to match plaids. I think there's like this challenge, and succeeding in it, I get really excited. Do not try to match the designs in this at all. Okay, you will make yourself crazy. So don't do it. Okay, so if that's going to really bother you, don't pick a print like this that's going to blend with the seams here. Pick something that is not quite as designy. I thought it would be really fun. We have the gnome print that's like in the strips that I thought you could try to line those up. But that's my idea of fun. Hey, you could try to line up those little stripes. It's probably not what other people want to do. So I'm saying if there are stripes in it, probably not your easiest one to do. Okay, so we're going to do one more side here. the same thing, pinning end, middle, in between. Okay, if you're new to sewing with Cuddle, this is a game changer in how easy it is to make the fabric stay where you want it to. For sure, because it likes to shimmy. All right, one more seam. Ready?
Yeah, sorry, I was distracted by this new comment stream situation that I'm trying to manage.
The old comment stream?
Yeah, the old comment stream. Yeah.
Oh, Ellen's going to have to text me a winner, I guess, huh? Back to the old thing. I was like, how do we know who won? He can't comment. Okay, that's a little close right there.
Okay,
Pull that out.
Look at that.
Okay, this is where I like, can I leave it? Can I not? This one will probably end up with a hole in it if I do. So I think the worst part of that is then I have to take stitches out. That's no fun. So I try to leave those pins in so that I can just sew right beside them. Okay, I have had people who pin like right next to the edge so they can pin in between, but I don't do that. Okay, so again, I'm going to hold this so it's nice and straight because it likes to wibble. Let me take that out.
Mary says the gnomes would work great, but just so everybody knows, the strips aren't necessarily all the same width.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, the gnomes aren't evenly placed. Like there's different size rows. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like there's some rows that are 2 inches, some that are 2.5 inches, some that are 4 inches. Yeah, so you'd have to cut that. That'd be fussy cutting for sure.
I think we could just fussy cut around the gnomes and then applique them over the seams after you're done.
You could probably do that. Okay, so this is where you pull out your kitchen table. Okay, and you're going to have a big enough space that you can get this. So this will come all the way around and create a little hexagon.
All right, I'm coming back around again.
You see that?
Yep.
Okay, and then we're going to lay our other one on top of it. Okay, and we're going to get these to match. Oh, but first, you know what I need to do? My ribbons. Okay, and I'm going to base those guys in place first. Okay, I think she shows on here, yep, 3 ribbons that you can do that are 12-inch lengths. Okay, and really there's no specification on where you put those or if you wanted to do 4 rows of ribbons or, you know, you could do all sorts of things. You could do little button loops or whatever. But yeah, the ribbons are super easy. So let's see. So measuring backwards, 36 minus 26. Okay, we need to go to 24 to get 12 inches. You know, I wish that they would do, and maybe there are boards like this, where they measure from both directions. That both numbers would be on there.
My guess is somebody has a patent on that and doesn't want to give it up.
That might be. There are rulers that do that, and I really like that. Okay, so we're going to cut all of these guys. And then I'm probably going to have to cut these at an angle so they don't fray, because that's how those work. Okay. All right, and then we're going to tack these ribbons in. So the way that I like to do it is I like to actually sew these into position first, and then I will sew them down as I do the sewing all the way around. Because what I found is that if I try to pin them in place, they're going to move. And I don't like that. Okay, how many is that? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So close. One more. Okay, because we need to put these all on at the same time. So I'm going to actually sew them onto the digital because it'll be a little bit easier for me. So if I put them on here, my piece here is about 20.5 inches long. Okay, and I know that I have a 1/2 inch seam allowance, so I want to make sure that I'm not doing within those, and then I want to come down just a little bit. So if I do 18 inches in here, okay, so I want to have
Oh, I see how you're thinking. So you put one
Oh,
at
yeah?
18, one at 1, and then one at 9.
One at 0 and one at
Oh,
9.
one at 0 and one at 9. Got it.
Yeah. So 0, 9, and 18. So I just had to divide it so that it's approximately equal. And I'm going to pin those down there. So for the one, I'm going to measure it. And then I'm going to flip these over so that the pretty side is up. So this is one thing that I have found is that if I pin one side and then the other side, which seems like a lot, I can get this ribbon straight. So if I pin it just this way and I try to sew it, this tends to move a lot and it will get in there crooked and get sewn like weird. So I pin it, I need to flip this over, a little bit on each side.
When was the last time we attached Velcro to a project? Oh, it was the bosom. It was the bosom buddy.
Last week.
Yeah, with the by any pattern. So yeah, absolutely. I think the Velcro would work. You just have to sort of watch your order of operations.
Yeah, the Velcro, I would sew this whole thing up, turn it inside out, do the top stitching, and then add the Velcro so that this overlap just a little bit.
Right.
So this one, the ribbons will be able to tie and it'll be perfectly even. But with the Velcro, I think it'd be easier just to make it overlap. You would just use like an inch Velcro or whatever.
Right.
Okay.
And it's never going to lay flat on the bottom of the tree anyway. So if you overlap it, it's not a big deal.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I don't think, I mean, it would overlap an inch. It's not a big deal. Okay. I can't quite reach it, but that's okay. All right. So I'm going to put my foot down and I'm going to stitch this just under a 1/2 inch of where I would normally, where I'll stitch it when I come around. Okay, and I'm just basting these guys down. So all I'm doing is holding those in place. Because when I stitch around the other direction, it'll be where I want it to. Okay, and take those pins out, make sure I don't sew over them. All right, so you can see it's just going to hold it there, but it will be less likely to shimmy as I come around and sew it all in place. I am going to remind myself and you that it is okay if the ribbons move just a tiny bit. I'll show you a way that you can prevent it, but it is one of those places like we've talked about before. About that's one of them is my ribbons being straight coming out. I don't know why it bothers me when they're not. Okay. All right. So I've got it here. I've got all 3. Now, here's the trick to getting it to line up on the other side. Because we're going to want this to come around and match, right, when we tie these together. And this is where I used to, when I would just kind of hurriedly do it, but I wouldn't get them to match. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this here, get this to match here, and then I'll pin it in position. Okay, so instead of measuring it this time, I'm actually just using the other side as my guide. Did that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, it's not a measurement, it's a reality check.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because I tried to get it near the 9 inches, but I might not have. And when I've done this before and I've just used the measurements, something is invariably off, and that'll be a point that bugs me. So we all have to choose our places that we have to get finicky about. This is one.
I feel like when you were doing like piece, what am I trying to say? Like the quilting, the piece quilting, where you've got a whole bunch of pieces all that have to line up.
Yeah.
You pin the intersections
right
first because that's actually more important.
Yes.
And then you ease in between.
Exactly.
Right? So
exactly.
The same thing.
Yep. Whether we're doing cotton quilting or the patchwork, like we did the Tuscan quilt.
That's
we were
what
out
I was
at
thinking
Poppy.
Of. There we go.
At Poppy Quilt. So, yep.
Use your words, Hawk.
Yeah. That's what we're here for. Help each other out. All right. So again, we're going to just base these guys down. Okay. Clip my thread. That's what I have to say. We were talking about it before, but what you would want out of a machine. And I tell you, the little foot down scissors thing, those little buttons make me so happy. Because look, I can just clip it, lift my foot, move on. It's great. It's such a weird little thing, but it makes such a huge difference in my happiness. Okay.
Oh, very hard to hear me when I talk? That's interesting. I should be on the same microphone situation. Oh, well, I'll try to speak up.
Good to know. All right, so now all of those are basted in place. So now what I can do, oh, I did cut an extra. I thought I had 6. All right, so now we want these guys to be over here. So this is the one that will get you in trouble because it's down here at the bottom. Okay. So we're going to pin that out of the way. Okay. So because we're going to come down here and then we're going to sew across the bottom, we want to make sure not to get that. Okay. What's happening over there?
I'm just trying to do a little scroll. I only get one comment at a time, and it's actually not advancing anymore.
Oh.
So there's definitely questions that I'm missing. I apologize
We'll come back
in
later.
advance. We'll come back and try to catch you guys up.
We know who to blame. It would be that other company that went belly up this morning.
Oh yeah. Well.
But hopefully we'll be back on next week, so we don't want to badmouth them because we like StreamYard. Yeah.
Yeah, I worry for them.
Yeah, that was it's a big to do right there. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing. So we often get questions about which side to sew up. So I'm going to sew this side, and then I'm going to see if I like it. And then I'll decide if I want to flip it over. Because a lot of times I actually like to sew with the Cuddle print side up. So we'll see what happens.
All right.
Okay. And that's because the print is lighter weight. So sometimes it works through differently. It seems to be working okay. What happens is I'll end up using my stiletto more to keep the 2 edges even because there's more puff up here. So this side has, I don't know what the right word is. It has some oomph to it. So if I push it down, I can get it to go underneath the foot. Sometimes this is a place that gets frustrating because it'll start to push because there's more on top. Does that make sense?
Yes. So there was another comment about our audio. It is possible that with the setup today, because it didn't go out to StreamYard like it normally does, that for some reason my Facebook might not have linked up to our normal microphones. We might just be running on phone mics right now.
We might be, and if we are, sorry, we have mics on. It just doesn't always work the way we want it to. Okay, I'm going to squish that pin out of the way. Okay, just be really careful. There we go. Okay, so that seemed to work out all right. Ay, yeah, mama.
What was that?
I just ran over a pin. Thankfully, I didn't hit it, but I did not. I did. That was me realizing, like, oh shoot, I missed one. Okay. Okay, so I don't know if you caught it. You were talking about mic stuff when I pushed this over. So I went back underneath. It's okay. So I went back underneath and straightened this out because it had wanted to shove. So I did straighten that out. Okay, that seemed to work out just fine. That's how those get tucked in there. Okay, so now I want to do the top part. Okay, so I'm going to show this part. So this is where we want things to match. Okay, so you know, because we've talked about it before, that when I want things to match nicely, this is when I'll stab them this way. Okay, so this becomes like a kind of a tight little area that we have to be a little bit more careful with. So the straight lines are super easy. When we get up here, this is actually a fairly small little hexagon shape. Okay, so this is where I found I had to be a little more, just careful about it. Because what it wants to do is curl underneath and then get caught and then make you say mean things to it.
So I'm noticing something here. You're only using one pin at each seam, but I noticed you're kind of driving it in at an angle, right? You're nesting the seam allowances.
So
right?
I'm holding the two together. I'm holding them both open.
Yep.
I'm stabbing it through this side and then back up through the other side.
Yeah.
So it's holding the two flat together.
That's
okay.
a very economical use of a pin.
I'm trying.
You're doing a lot of work with one pin.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay this out. Okay, because then you can start seeing that this is actually a fairly small little section here that we're doing. And what I want to do is get each of these sections flat, because see how they want to do this?
Yes.
I don't actually want it to sew like that. So I'm going to have to shove it around. Repin just a little bit. Get that how I want it to be, a little better. And then if I push this back, and then I can pin flat up here. And that will hold that back where I want it to be. So that was the one place that I found that this fabric will want to curl because it's thinner, and it will kind of pull back. So if we kind of keep it in place like this, it'll be a little bit easier to sew. The other thing is we're going to need to kind of sew it in this big flat position so that it will feed through better. Okay. All right. So we're going to do kind of the same thing when we get to the bottom, but it's different because it's bigger and it's the other direction. Okay. So if you're at a table, this is a little bit easier. Welcome to my life, standing and sewing. I'll move my foot pedal. Okay. So we're going to get this out of the way because we're almost sewing in a circle. So that's why I'm putting my stuff over here, is to keep it fairly flat. I'm going to sew this and just work it around. All right. So come in here. Make sure my edges are even.
All right.
Do a little back stitch. Oh no. Sorry.
Those glues.
Oops, that's not hard to do. You have thread. It unthreaded.
Oh,
but
okay.
do you remember? We fixed that.
We did.
So let's see if it works.
I thought maybe you were about to run out of bobbin thread. So.
Oh no! I put a whole
that.
fresh bobbin in there. We are playing a little bit of thread chicken up top, but not too bad today. I think we're gonna be fine. Okay. So there we go. Okay. So I'm gonna try to make sure that stays where I want it to. Grab my stiletto. Try to get this to come in straight. So each one of these, even though it's kind of a circle, we're actually heading, it's a straight line that we want to try to pivot on the seam. Okay. This is where if you sew it from the other side, you'd be able to see it better.
Okay.
Okay. So things to keep in mind. I like to make things difficult for myself. You know, see what I'm actually capable of. And,
I don't know. I think being able to see the thicker seam allowances and making sure they're open might be helpful too.
Both sides, yes, both are totally helpful. Okay, make sure that this gets pulled out there. Then I'm going to catch both. And if we don't, we're going to come back around and try to catch it the next time. And so it's just a little bit crazy. But if you have a table, I promise it's a lot easier. There's certain things that I do, that we do on this Sew Together Tuesday, that I'm like, this makes it look a lot harder than it actually is. Because you'll be sewing not standing up probably, and definitely at a table. Make sure that's out. Yep. Keep it straight. Okay, just try to make sure I get all those pins out. Okay, and honestly, if it doesn't end up straight, or end up on the, like, those points and turning super nicely, it's going to be up near the top of your tree. It's fine. Who's going to see it up there?
Gnomes. Real ones.
The elves, right? Santa's elves when they come.
Put that
Santa.
elf back on the shelf. Tell him to stop snooping around the stitches.
That's right. Okay, stick that underneath.
Judgy elf.
They can be. That's what I've heard. Okay, one more. I guess two more after this. Okay. So this one really wants to curl up there. Try to put it back where I want it to be. Okay, one more. Okay, and then we're going to cross that seam that we did before. I'm just going to backstitch there. Okay, so at this point, this is what you're going to do. You're going to turn around. What I have found is that this all will need to be clipped. So weirdly, we're going to need to clip some of this, which I'm going to show you one more thing. Actually, two more things. And then we'll finish up here. Okay, so one of the things is we need to do our little stay stitching line that we do.
Oh, right.
Okay.
Because we have to make a turning hole.
Yep, exactly. So I'm going to put it between the ribbons. And I'm just going to mark it with pins. Okay, and so I'm going to put a little stitching line here at my 1/2 inch. What that's going to do is that we're going to turn this inside out, right? Because we're going to have to sew around the whole bottom part and then turn this whole thing inside out. If I don't do this little stay stitching line, it's harder to get a nice even hand sewing line. So we're going to do that. You'll find this in a lot of our patterns that we call it stay stitching in the patterns. And I'm pretty sure it's in this pattern too.
So there's only one layer of fabric there.
One layer.
Yep. You're not sewing anything
sewing between
together.
The pins. I'm not sewing anything together. I'm sewing myself a little guideline. Okay, so there's one. So now when I'm trying to do the hand sewing later, this is going to turn really nicely on that little line, which works super duper well. Okay, one of the things that I have found, and we've had some talk about this, since we're on Facebook only today, there's probably a bunch of people who are part of that I Love Cuddle group. And I love that group. But one of the things we talked about on there is direction of sewing. You'll notice that I sew it face down a lot because I like seeing it from the back. I can see better from the back. I've also noticed that the back will sometimes, on some machines, will snag on the feed dogs. So if you're having issues with the back snagging, turn it over and sew it with this down. Okay. But this gives you a little line. That this will be my turning line when I do the hand stitching. Okay. All right. So now, where'd the camera go? There it is. All right. So now I'm going to get these in here straight. And I'm going to pin them. Okay. And where these lines are, I'm going to mark this with my pen. Just so you guys can see it better. I can see the stitching pretty well, but I don't know how well you can see it. But my stitching is from here to, I say I can see it and then I couldn't feel it. Okay, from here to, nope, that's the other one. There. Okay, so that's where I'm going to leave my turning gap. So go ahead and pin that. Okay, and I'm going to pin that in position straight out so it'll stay there. This is where I'm actually going to leave my little turning gap. So I'm going to do that. And I will. So I've got pins in the ribbon to hold the ribbon straight as much as possible. And I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do the same thing at this corner. Okay, you remember on the other side, we pinned it up and out of place. And I'm going to leave it here for right now and then shove it up when I do the bottom.
I don't know what you meant.
Okay, this right here. Do you see this?
Oh, yeah.
So if I sewed here and then turned, I would just sew my strip into the bottom seam,
Okay.
which I don't want to do. So I'm going to sew to here, and then I'm going to shove this up and pin it out of place.
Now I understand.
Out of the way.
There we go.
Okay. So this is the reality of life with Cuddle. This got bigger on the back, and I don't know why. So I'm just going to pin it so it'll feed itself in.
Right. So at this point, you always pin the ends and then pin halfway and then pin halfway. And
right.
Pin halfway,
and I'm not sure what happened, why one side is slightly bigger, but I'm just going to make it ease itself in. Okay. Hold on. Let me get that nice and straight in there. Try to get my ribbon to be where I want it to be, because like I said, it's one place I get finicky. Okay. So now I'm going to pin this in between. So the key with the ribbons is making sure that you've put a place to turn it in between that. It's the easiest place to do it. Okay, don't try to leave it at the top. I thought about that for just a moment and then realized that was insanity. So we're going to do it on the side instead. All right, so now I'm just going to sew down here. I'm going to sew up to where that little stay stitching line is. Okay, which is past the ribbon. I'm going to back stitch a couple of little stitches, go forward a couple, and then
pivot on the needle. And this is the L bracket.
This is the L bracket. Yep. Exactly. I saw somebody mention that there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They said they learned that from one of our brand ambassadors. We like that.
Yes, it works really, really well and makes such a nice little turning spot. So the same thing is going to happen here. Can you see that little in there? Yeah, you can kind of see it. That's where my stitches are. That's where I want my needle to go down. So I'm going to kind of eyeball it. Stick my needle down. Put my foot down. Oh, I have to do it this way, sorry. Okay, and then I'm going to sew off the edge. And then I'm going to back stitch to that spot. Bink. Okay, and then pivot again.
Bink.
So you could you could totally, I think I just went one stitch beyond, but that's all right. I'm just going to go down and sew this entire side shut. Okay. Okay, so I want to show one more thing and then we'll wrap it up. Okay, so that was the difficult part. It seemed really hard, right? No. Okay, so now
it's going to save you later.
It will. When you come back, you're going to use those stitching lines right there to line up and hand stitch that closed, and it will be perfectly straight and even. Okay, that to me is a total game changer in being able to close things, because otherwise it is really hard to see a straight-ish line on the Cuddle to be able to get any hand stitching done. So being able to do this, it just pops inside, stays there. So one of the things we were talking about trimming up here at the corner, there's a whole lot of mass in here. So I'm going to go ahead and trim those out. So up here at the corner, just going to use this little micro serrated scissors. We're just going to go ahead and cut that. Okay. Do that over a garbage can. You'll never be the wiser. Tuck it inside so all the Cuddle dust stays in there. All right. And then that will come out much nicer. So you'll get a better point. I have a couple of point turners that we would use for those corners. So this is just the wooden kind. It'll go up here. I just lost my clover one, darn it. Okay. It's going to come up here and push in here so you can see it. I like the wooden one here because it's got kind of a roundish point. Okay.
Got it. Could you have possibly just use the other end of your stiletto?
No, because you mean the wood.
Oh, that's the pressing tool end.
Right, it's flat.
That's different than a point turner. Sorry, I'm learning.
And this one is really nice because this, that's like a pressing thing. Right. This one is the one from Clover. I really like it. The thing that I found is that sometimes it's a little too pointy. So sometimes it's exactly what I need because I need it to get real pointy. Sometimes it's a little too pointy. So the wooden one is a little less pointy because it's wide. Okay. So I found that sometimes this works better. We talked about it, different tools for different purposes. if you have this one, it will work fine. Okay. So at this point, we've got the top sewn. I want to show you the bottom. You're going to sew it the exact same way. I just want to do one little part, so we don't have to go too far over. But what I have found is these points become obnoxious. So trim them off before you sew them. Okay. You can just see where your corner is much better. The same goes for here. With those hanging off, it's harder to see where I want to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and trim those. Okay.
All right.
All of a sudden it's much easier. And then I'm going to not pin those two because they don't match, but I am because they're here. Okay. So this side, you're not really going to be able to tell where it's at. This side I can. So this side, I would want to sew it from here, at least for those corners. Come in, sew it.
Got it.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, I feel like we should, yeah, probably wrap that baby up. All right, so.
You're going to do that all the way around the bottom edge.
You're going to do it all the way. So I'm going to lay this out just a little bit. So you're going to want to pin it the whole way, sew it, flip it through that hole. Then you're going to top stitch it. So let me show you the other one where I've done that whole thing. All right. So you can see this is what I did. Brought it around. Let me see if I can find which one I hand stitched. Right there. There's where I hand stitched. Okay, but you could see it's still nice and straight. It's just a little puckered because I gathered it too much. And then I went ahead and stitched it. In the pattern, I think she tells you to stitch about 1 inch away. Mine is maybe more like 2/3 of an inch. But whatever floats your boat.
Guys, do you do that top stitch up around
the whole way?
Okay. Oh, up there too.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going to go ahead, stitch the bottom, turn it through the hole, hand stitch it close, and top stitch it. Super duper simple, and it does make a very lovely. So let me lay this back out again.
I feel like actually I just want to wear it for a cape.
Oh, that's a great idea. If I don't sew the bottom, you could totally wear it right now.
Well, we're not really gonna have a chance to have a tree this year since we're moving
That's
into
true.
the RV.
That is true. So your finish will basically be like this, okay? And then there's this one. There we go. Okay. Or you can make this version with a top stitch. You could also, like we talked about, you could add some ruffle along the edge. You could add some top stitching. You could do, well, we were talking about if you did it like this from the luxe side, and this might not be the best choice to embroider on, but you could totally embroider each of these panels with the different, and like a lot of them have really gorgeous embroidery patterns that are available for holiday season that you could do one on here, be absolutely beautiful. You could do it on one of the panels or all of the panels. Lots of choices for making it much more personalized toward what you have in your home and how you're decorating it. So again, the kits are available, a few different variations. You can see them at institches450.com, and you can get the pattern as a free download from shannonfabrics.com. All right, so that's important to note. Let me see if I got, oh, I did get a text. Let's see. Okay. Today's giveaway winner. There we go. All the stuff. Okay. All right. Today's giveaway winner is Sandra P. So we would put a little banner across the bottom. Too bad we don't have somebody in the background like making little banners for us, putting it up at the bottom. We could do it totally DIY. Sandra P, congratulations. You are the winner for today. And we will send you a kit. If you get a hold of us through the Facebook Messenger and let us know your mailing address and all of that good stuff, we will send you a kit. If you want the Christmas tree skirt kit, let us know in the email and I will make one up specially for you. Otherwise, we'll send you a strip quilt. Okay. All right. Is that it?
Yeah, I think
we have
so.
What we're going to do next week. We'll be back next week. Oh, next week we are doing the Luxe Cuddle Milan. So if you have been wanting to know how do I sew with Luxe Cuddle Milan, it's the one that has the elastic in it that everybody's been asking about. We'll be back next week.
Or if you're a store and you want to know how to cut it.
Right. If you're a store and you have it in your shop and you're like, how do I work with this stuff? How do I tell people? Come watch. We'll be talking all about it. And we're going to talk about the different tools and how you work with it, whether you stretch it or you don't stretch it, how you cut it. All of that good stuff will be happening next week on Sew Together Tuesday. 2 weeks from now, we will be in Battle Mountain, Nevada at the Quilt Parlor, and we'll be teaching how to make a pillow bed. So that'll be super fun, and looking forward to that. And then we have a few more weeks. And then I think after Quilt Parlor, so in 3 weeks, we should be announcing the new tour.
Yes.
So as Hawk sort of talked about, we're moving into the RV and going on tour, and we'll be doing quilt shop tour all of next year. So we're very excited about that. Talk to your shops about it and get us out to come see you. So we are planning that now, and we'll announce at least the first leg of it at the beginning of December on Sew Together Tuesday. So make sure that you share, that you subscribe, that you like us, that you join us on the I Love Cuddle group, all of that good stuff. And we'll be back next week for Sew Together Tuesday. All right. Thank you so much to the Quilt Parlor. You're so funny. I'm like, are we wrapping it up? Are we saying thank you to everyone? I'm like, Hawk's making movements, and he doesn't know sign language. So he's making. So thank you to InStitches for having us. We're very excited to be here. Thanks for everybody who is here in the audience. Thanks. There's a whole group of people.
Yay! Thanks, everybody.
Thank you for dealing with our little internet issues today and being here anyway. I appreciate all of you. Thank you so much. Okay. Did I do it right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
You did
Thanks,
great.
Colleen. Okay. We'll see you next week. Okay. Bye. Happy sewing.